that this year, this thing is the single most important thing of our lifetime. And so it's a worthwhile pursuit to explain to the world what Bitcoin is, what an open monetary network is, what a digital monetary asset is, why it's good for the human race, how it's going to change their lives, and why it would be irrational and tragic for them to dismiss it as another speculative fervor.
Yeah, and you mentioned this paradigm shift, and previously, I've heard you talk about how with a paradigm shift, either the idea dies slowly or it takes like a shock in the system for it to, for people to adopt this new paradigm. So it seems like the pacifist way, right, to educate people into Bitcoin without having some drastic thing change in people's lives to adopt it.
Well, I mean, if you wanted to introduce electricity to every home in the world, then you would probably start by explaining what electricity is and why it'll make everybody stronger and better, and why it's safe, how to handle it safely. And the same would be true with the automobile or compressed air or hygienic running water. So they're all just requiring education. Luckily for us, the cost of education in the year 2021 is a penny, is minuscule compared to the cost of education even 20 years ago. So information moves quickly. This is an idea whose time has come, but it's a new idea, sophisticated idea, and it's going to be much rougher and more turbulent in its adjustment if people don't get their heads around what it is and how they should manage it.
I think to that note, I've heard some people kind of refer to how, if you like Bitcoin, you're not patriotic, because it doesn't allow for the United States to, use the petrodollar system to do what it wants to do geopolitically. But I think for a lot of things you've just mentioned, I was wondering if you could expand on maybe how Bitcoin is actually patriotic and not unpatriotic to be holding and to be a part of.
I think it's pretty clear at this point that the way that the world is going to evolve, we're going to have one layer, which we call the currency layer, and it's going to be dollars or euros or the fiat currency of every legitimate, effective government on the planet. And there's going to be an underlying layer, a store of value layer called the asset layer. And that's either going to be pure base layer money, which is what Bitcoin is, or it's going to be a hybrid mixture of like an investment in commercial real estate or a stock that the people feel has a portion of asset in it and a portion of speculation in it. So that being the case, you're looking at 8 billion people on the planet, and the killer application is a mobile wallet like the Blue Wallet or the Moon Wallet or the Square Cash Wallet or Apple Pay, or fill in the blank. There'll be 1,000 of them downloaded on a mobile device. And that mobile wallet's going to have a fiat currency layer and a payment rail that moves probably dollars or the equivalent. And then underlying, there's got to be a savings account / asset layer, and that's going to emerge as Bitcoin. So I don't think Bitcoin is at all threatening to the dollar. I actually think that if we look right in front of our face, what's happening, the Argentine peso is collapsing. The Nigerian currency is collapsing. The Zimbabwe currency is collapsing. Probably the currencies in the weakest 50 countries in the world, they're all collapsing. And what everybody wants is they want to do their medium of exchange in dollars. And so the US dollar is actually going to spread on that Bitcoin base layer to Nigeria, Venezuela, all of Africa, half if not most of South America, all through Asia. Because if the government can't maintain a currency which is strong enough to be effectively pegged to the dollar, then it's going to lose control of the currency. So you see you've got three types of currencies. You've got the rich countries, Switzerland, UAE, Europe, Singapore. They manage to maintain parity to the dollar roughly because they're well managed and they have assets. Then you have the countries that are weakening and they're losing 20% of their strength against the dollar. And then you have the countries where the currency is literally collapsing, right? Lebanon, Iraq, of Afghanistan. There is no currency. So if you're interested in doing the best thing for the world, what you want to do is deploy this open monetary wallet with the Bitcoin as a base layer asset protocol, and then with a stable coin rail, which is probably the US dollar, because if you're going to go to a currency other than your local currency, you might as well just go right to the one that's 90% of the world. That's what you'll see. You're either going to do that on a proprietary network like Square Cash or PayPal, like with compliant payment rails, or you're going to do it on an open network that's probably Lightning based, and it'll be open protocol because maybe Square's not operating in Zimbabwe, right?
Yeah.
But if the Zimbabwe currency hyperinflates to 1 billion Zimbabwe, buys you less than a cup of coffee, it's pretty obvious you can't use that one.
Mm-hmm.
And so what are you going to use? You're going to basically flip it for the dollar. What we're seeing is Bitcoin as an open monetary protocol is making it possible for 100,000 Bitcoin banks to spin up in cyberspace. They're all going to settle with each other on the Bitcoin protocol. They're all going to do payment, billions of transactions and payments and other trust transactions on Lightning rails or other proprietary rails, settle with each other at a slower frequency. And this is the way that the best technology spreads to all 8 billion people. So coming back to the question of, is this good for the US? Well, it's good for the US dollar because the US dollar is going to become the medium of exchange for the next 3 billion people on the planet that currently are struggling to use the Zimbabwe, whatever it is, right? Or the Bolivar, right? Mm-hmm. So you'll see the US dollar moving on that Bitcoin base layer. It's also good for the US because the mobile wallet's coming to everybody on the planet, whether we like it or not. And if it doesn't sit on Bitcoin controlled and owned by American investors and American companies running on American technology, spreading American values, spreading the US dollar, it's going to sit on the Chinese yuan. Mm-hmm. Right? What happens if you don't want to spread the dollar to 5 billion people for daily payments? What are they going to use? Right? Yeah. I think when I got started in business, people used to say a really good marketing strategy or a good business strategy is one that you would hate to see your competitor pursue. Mm-hmm. So either U.S. technology and fintech is going to be built on top of 21st century crypto asset network Bitcoin, or we're not. And the 6 billion people on the planet that need such a thing are going to go to somebody else. The truth of the matter is, right, like they'll probably go to Bitcoin, but they'll just be running, instead of US dollars on Bitcoin, they'll be running Chinese yuan, renminbi on Bitcoin, right? But they're going to run something. We know they're not going to run the Naira or the Bolivar. And in Argentina, the official inflation rate this year is 45%. The unofficial inflation rate is 85%. Wow. And that's 40%, plus last year, 40% plus the year before that. What are they going to do? And the question really is the United States going to provide technology that's going to solve the problem of monetary economics for the entire planet? Or are we going to abdicate our leadership role? And all that means is the capital moves offshore, the technology moves offshore, and people maybe they don't use English or the dollar, they use Chinese and CNY, which I don't really think that's good for the United States. So once I think technologists think about it, and once anybody thinks about it, I think they're going to go, yeah, I have a way to do something 1 million times faster, better, stronger than the old way. And are we going to do it, or are we going to abdicate responsibility for doing it?